Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Joys of Reading. I'm your host, Rob Boss, and today we'll be discussing The Heart of Darkness, more specifically, Part 2 of The Heart of Darkness. Now in today's episode of The Joys of Reading, we're going to be discussing symbols. The symbols we'll be discussing will be listed down below, so take a look. The first symbol we'll be discussing is fog. Fog is seen all throughout the book and has to be known as one of the main symbols of the novella. Fog comes in many different ways in the novella, through just plain fog or through smoke such as Marlowe's pipe or the smoke from the fire that was burning the hut, as well as the smoke the steamer gives off in order for it to operate. All these examples of fog or smoke represent blindness or clouded judgment. The fog is all-encompassing. It doesn't only mask one's judgment, but it also distorts it. It makes decisions harder to make and causes problems to become harder to solve. Fog can be looked at as worse than darkness. While darkness does not allow any sight at all to help solve a problem, fog allows just enough sight to make bad decisions. Fog doesn't give enough vision to fully evaluate the problem and discover the best possible decision. Ultimately, the fog is representing of uncertainty and blindness. In part 2 of the novella, Marlowe and his gang aboard the steamer wake up to a heavy white fog. Marlowe is unable to see anything, and he is unable to decipher what is what and where to go. The fog made the path unclear and blinding. The white fog in this case symbolizes Marlowe's mentality, his perspectives and beliefs, as well as his confusions. This is also a symbol of the indecisiveness on how he views Kurtz. He does not fully understand what to think of Kurtz, as he has only heard second-hand information about him, and a lot of the information was both positive and negative, creating a difficulty in judgment about his situations. While in this case the fog figuratively represents Marlowe's clouded mentality, judgments, and confusions, the fog literally represents the inability to see. He is stuck in the river without a clue where to go or what to do, whether he will head into open water or will put himself and the crew aboard in danger. Once the fog lifts, Marlowe is able to see again. His judgment on where to go is unclouded. This symbolizes Marlowe's uncovering of the truth. While he is unable to see for a period of time, the fog slowly begins to rise, meaning Marlowe's confusions, judgments, and mentality slowly begin to change. Now we can connect this symbol of fog to the theme, the nature of reality. Most of the time, what we hear, learn, and come to understand is coming from a different person, telling us or teaching us about this information. Is what we're receiving real? We can't be too sure. What we're being taught is clouding our judgment and teaching us to think a certain way and believe certain things. Just like the fog, it clouds us from seeing what's really out there, and rather confines us to a small space of knowledge and understanding. In the book, when it comes to Kurtz, Marlowe has only heard second-hand information about him. He has heard many different stories and views on Kurtz. This information is for the most part all positive, and clouds Marlowe's visions on what about Kurtz and these stories are real and what is fake, just like how the fog clouds his visions on the decisions he has to make. Not enough to start a decision, but just enough for the decision to be for the most part, the wrong one. As well in the story, Marlowe is telling the story to the narrator, and then we are hearing the narrator tell the story back to us. The information we are hearing is coming from two blockades. So how much of what either of these two are saying is actually true? Can we trust everything Marlowe is saying? Or what about the narrator? Can we trust his words?
Hi, and welcome back. The next symbol we'll be talking about is nature, and we have a special guest talking about this symbol today, Cameron Turner.
Hey dude. Throughout the novella, nature is a dominant and frequently prevalent symbol. Firstly, the continent of Africa as an alive character. In the novella, we see Africa become a character in itself and its responses to the company's destruction. This shows the idea that Africa could destroy and take care of the company at any time it wanted. Secondly, the river. As a whole, throughout the novella, the river works as a key to the heart of Africa, the heart of darkness where Kurtz is. The river for Marlowe is the most dangerous and treacherous journey he will ever face. With every twist and turn comes a new decision, an event that affects his journey towards Kurtz. Marlowe creates the idea that the river is an uncoiled snake stretching across Africa. This fascinates him. This image of a snake portrays the idea that the river is dangerous. In addition to the strong current, supports the idea that the company should be expelled from Africa. On the top of page 50, the earth seemed unearthly. We are accustomed to look upon the shackled form of a conquered monster, but there you could see a thing monstrous and free. This quote serves to show the idea that Africa as a continent is something they are not used to, and something that is so alive and dangerous to be unearthly. Throughout the section, the rhythm of Marlowe's journey becomes more and more hazardous as he slowly inches his way towards Kurtz. But the snags were thick, the water was treacherous and shallow. The quote at the bottom of page 51, in addition to "the current was more rapid now, the steamer seemed at her last gasp," middle of 53, support the idea of the danger of the river. Towards the end of the section, the symbol of nature arises again as the crew is only 8 miles from Kurtz. Nature begins to reflect that they now truly enter in the heart of darkness. The living trees, lashed together by the creepers, and every living bush of the undergrowth might have been changed into stone, even to the slenderest twig, to the lightest leaf. Bottom of page 54. Nature connects to the theme of civilization versus savagery. Civilization is often used as a buffer for mankind's natural tendencies, these being dark and evil. The nature throughout the book and section acts as a barricade from civilization and allows for people to become distorted and savage. The lashing creepers and trees create a physical separation from Europe, which is civilization, and the river allows for a route to Kurtz, who is a savage and ultimately is the heart of darkness. The individuals can only be as civilized as their surrounding environment. Thank you.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Now, the third symbol we're going to be talking about is the woodpile and the note from section 2 of the novella. And talking about it will be Travis Newmeyer. Hi, Travis.
Hello. Towards the start of section 2 in the novella, Marlowe comes across a pile of wood with a note attached. The note read, "Wood for you, hurry up, approach cautiously." Later in the novella, we discover that the wood pile and the note was given to Marlowe by the Russian. Near the pile of wood, a small hut stood alone. Inside the hut was a broken table, a pile of garbage, and a book about seamanship. The note symbolizes deception and how Marlowe gets most of his information secondhand. As Marlowe learns, secondhand information often isn't the most reliable. The wood is also a very important symbol. It demonstrates how the Europeans divide up Africa without consent from the First Nations. Wood shows the relenting hypocrisy of the Europeans toward the Africans. This key theme is called the nature of reality. It is shown how most of what Marlowe knows about Kurtz is second or third hand information. It demonstrates how much of our own reality is based on what other people have told you is real. Also highlighted is a civilization versus savagery motif. The Europeans show how civilized people can still be savages. Through the note, being able to read and write in English is a very good example of civilization, and it shows how people have learned to do that and can still be as barbaric and primitive as the people they enslave. Deception is a key motif in regards to the note. Marlowe can be deceived rather easily because he doesn't know Kurtz's signature or his writing. Anyone could have wrote the note and signed as Kurtz, and Marlowe wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The book about seamanship that Marlowe finds within the hut can symbolize work and as an excuse, with the Africans being the seamen on the steamboat. It shows that they are preoccupied with the work on the boat, so they can't mutinize on Marlowe. In conclusion, the wood and the note are a crucial symbol in part 2 of the novella.
Hey, and welcome back to our fourth symbol today. Now, this is a small compilation of symbols read by Dylan here. The symbols include the boat, river, boiler, and the hut. Dylan, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Throughout part 2 of the novella, most if not all the time is spent on the boat. The very same boat that Marlowe had to fix in order to survive and finish his mission. Coupled with how the boat is no less a symbol of the human mind, having to fix their boat mind before launching it onto the river. Furthermore, they had to fix and clear their mind before continuing on the spiritual journey on the river, which is exactly what the river symbolizes. Additionally, much like how a river is unpredictable, winding, and not knowing where you are or going until you're already there, so very much is life, just like a foggy, winding river. But the further you go, the more you may realize and the less foggy everything becomes, finally realizing that everybody has a naturally dark side, just some people can conceal it better than others. As a matter of fact, this is so very much ties into the whole El Dorado expedition, which really means the appearance versus reality of things, in that Marlowe or the Whites search for something that cannot be attained, hoping that in their adventure they will find themselves or get rich with ivory. But their appearance must be kept. The company uses civilizing and Christianity for saving the savages from themselves as an excuse to roam around, killing and exploring wherever they can for their benefit. The boiler on the boat is there to symbolize how savage the natives are, and that they believe the boiler will take revenge if the water is low or out. They're uncivilized, so they have a sense of fear towards everything related to the whites. The hut that they stumble upon can very much be a symbol for civilizing, but can also be seen as an idea of exploration and the greed of the whites by always moving and exploring for their riches, ivory. Africa is a playground, and the company is that one kid who is always going around kicking over the others' castles and stealing others' food/toys. The company is that type of kid, a bully if you will.
We're back to our fifth and final symbol now. This fifth and final symbol is Kurtz. In the novella, he's a very prominent character and will be talked about by Riley here. Riley?
Kurtz is a reoccurring symbol throughout part 2 in the novella, but also throughout the entire novel. He can be referred to as the Holy Grail, but he may also be referred to as the Devil. For example, Kurtz is to be found by Marlowe in the heart of Africa via the Nile. It is almost like Marlowe's on a quest to retrieve the Holy Grail, and traveling through the river to reach Kurtz is almost like a quest for him. He must deal with situations that seem so surreal to him that he begins to use excuses to stay uninvolved in the horror that is occurring. In a letter he has written to the company, P.S. quotes, "Exterminate all the brutes," and saying this, Kurtz has now reached the bottom, where he decides to stop hiding the fact that the company is evil, and he starts to be honest about it. In doing this, he is turning Africa into hell. A theme to match Kurtz as a symbol is the Hollow Man. Quote, "The whisper echoed loudly inside him because he was hollow," refers to Kurtz losing his mind because of the jungle. When he has lost all self-control, he becomes the Hollow Man.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Joys of Reading, and I hope you learned a little something. I'm your host, Rob Boss, and I hope to see you next time. Until then.